Save one life. Save the world. Czechoslovakia, 1938. When we were 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, our home was the old city of Prague. In the summer, when the sun lit up the sky, our mothers brought us to the city parks. We counted the boats on the river and had picnics of dark bread with cheese and slices of our mother's sweet honey cake. In the winter, we skated on the rivers until the first stars appeared. Then we walked hand in hand with our fathers to the coffee houses. Our fathers sipped from steaming cups. We slurped hot cocoa and buried our noses in whipped cream. All through the year, we played with our friends, went to school with them, laughed and told our secrets to them. We were Jewish. They were often not. It didn't matter to us. When we were 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, Prague was everyone's peaceful home, until it wasn't. In November, something happened, but we didn't understand what it was. Tent camps grew outside our city, filled with people our parents called refugees. The children appeared in the streets cold, hungry, without shoes. They looked lost, afraid. What had happened to them? We began to understand. In Germany, Jewish storefronts had been smashed. Synagogues had been burned. The refugees were looking for somewhere safe to go. As we walked home from school, older boys glared at us, their fists raised. One of them pointed and sneered. "Hey, Jew!" Another boy threatened to beat us up. We ran as fast as we could into the arms of our parents. Our mothers and fathers shuddered. Their faces were full of dread. Our mothers were too worried to answer our questions. Our fathers were too busy writing letters to explain. One morning, our fathers sat with our mothers at the kitchen table. "It's decided. We will meet the man. He will make the arrangements." Tears welled in their eyes. Our parents left for a hotel with folders full of papers, drawings we had made, photos of us. What man were they meeting in our city of Prague? What arrangements were they making? We did not know. On a cold spring day in March 1939, an army of German soldiers marched into our city of Prague. Their black boots clattered on our cobblestone streets. Hitler, their leader with a mustache, stood up in a car, one arm straight in front of him. Red flags with black zigzags hung on buildings or were hoisted up on poles. Crowds lining the streets watched silently. We peered out our windows. War. The word escaped from our father's lips. War. We knew the word, but what would war mean for us? We were soon to find out. One day, our fathers received a letter. "It's time." Our mothers began packing our clothes in suitcases. They asked us which toys and books we wanted most to take. "To where?" "To England, my darlings." Our mothers trembled as they folded our warmest sweaters, our favorite dresses. They slipped in family photos, a teddy bear, writing paper, a diary. "You're taking a holiday to England." "Aren't you coming?" "No, my loves, but good people will be there to take care of you." Our mothers wrapped their arms around us. We smelled their perfume, the scent of their hair. Then our mothers whispered words we would never forget. "There will be times when you'll feel lonely and homesick. Let the stars of the night and the sun of the day be the messenger of our thoughts and love." The day we arrived at Prague's Wilson railway station, the platform was filled with families, mostly Jewish. Some were refugees, others were from the city like us. German soldiers with rifles surveyed the crowd. Our fathers eyed the soldiers, while our mothers cupped our cheeks in their hands. They stared at us with wet eyes, memorizing our faces. Our parents hung strings around our necks, tied to white cardboard with numbers written on them. "Dear ones, this is your ticket to life." We stood bewildered. Our parents never told us why they were sending us away. They never named the man who gave us our ticket to life. A train engine chugged into the station and squealed to a stop. Our parents gave us one last long hug before we climbed into the train car. We opened the windows and peered out. One mother stood on the platform clutching her little girl, hesitated, then pushed her daughter through the window to us. The conductor blew his whistle. Quickly, the mother pulled her little girl out, back into her arms. The mother's dark eyes darted to the train, to her little girl's face, to us. We stared back. We wanted to be in our mother's arms too. The final whistle blew. The engine huffed. The train wheels began to turn. The mother hugged her little girl one last time, then ran crying, pushing her daughter headfirst through the window into our small laps and arms. The train lurched forward. We stuck out our hands and waved. Our parents waved back. The train clattered faster. We settled into worn leather seats and looked around. The entire train car was filled with children. It didn't matter where we were from. We were all refugees now. "We love you. We love you. Remember the stars and the sun." We shared our sandwiches of dark bread with cheese and slices of honey cake. We shared our family photos and told ourselves we would be home again soon. It was a big adventure, until it wasn't. At the German border, the train slowed, stopped. The German police stomped into our train car. We cringed and hid away our photos and our teddy bears. The police snarled at us with angry voices. They squinted at our travel documents. They opened our suitcases and dumped out our belongings. That's when we knew we had no idea what would happen to us. No idea what lay ahead. Our train rattled through the heart of Germany, all the way to the Netherlands. When we reached the English Channel, we stepped out and climbed into a big boat. As the waves rocked us, we whispered to the stars of the night. We called to the sun of the day. We pictured our parents' faces and swallowed the lumps in our throats. After another train ride, we finally arrived at London's Liverpool Street station. Strangers with open arms ran to greet us. They peered at the cardboard numbers around our necks. They matched our faces with photos in their hands. These strangers, our new foster mums and dads, spoke English words we could not understand. None of us knew that a man in London had asked these families to take care of us, as if we were their own. Our foster families opened their homes to us. They fed us crispy fish and chips with mushy peas and wet, pillowy white bread. By the sun of the day, we thanked these strangers. But at night, we whispered to the stars how we missed dark bread, hot cocoa, and our mother's sweet honey cake. Weeks passed, months, a year. We went to school, made friends, learned English. We huddled around the radio and listened to the news. War had broken out, as our fathers had feared. More years passed. Cities were bombed. And Prague? our parks, our coffee houses, our homes. We watched newsreels of people wearing yellow stars sewn to their shabby coats. German soldiers shoved these people into train cars made for cattle, trains that were traveling to terrible places. We prayed to the stars of the night and the sun of the day that these people were not our parents. Weren't our parents still safe at home, in our old city of Prague? And then, the war ended. When we were 17 or 18 or older, we traveled back to Prague. We searched long lists looking for our parents' names. We begged people in the parks, "Have you seen our mothers?" We visited coffee houses. "Do you know where our fathers are?" Most of us never found them, our mothers and fathers. It was then that we understood. The worst had happened. Our parents had been sent to those terrible places. No one had saved our parents. But who was the man who saved us? 50 years passed. We grew up. We made new homes. We started new jobs. We found hope and courage. We had children. We had grandchildren. We whispered to the stars of the night and the sun of the day our gratitude for being alive. Still, we did not know the name of the man who saved us. Until one day, news came that a scrapbook had been found in an old trunk in an attic. Inside the scrapbook were photos of children, their drawings, passports, legal stamps, letters, a plan of escape, and names listed in rows. Our photos were pasted in that scrapbook. Our names were on the lists. Eva Diamantova, Vera Diamantova, Renata Polgar, Joseph Schlesinger, Ernest Schlesinger. The name of the man who made the lists was in the scrapbook too. Who was this man? After all these years, we wanted to know. One day we were invited to meet him. He was an elderly man wearing an ordinary suit, looking with kind eyes through ordinary glasses. But he was no ordinary man. His name was Nicholas Winton. He was the man in Prague. He was the man in London. He was the man who wanted to save children. Nicholas Winton was the man who wanted to save us. He saved 669 of us. We will forever whisper our thanks to him. By saving us as children, Nicholas Winton saved our children, our grandchildren, and all their children to come. We will forever whisper our thanks to him. Nicholas Winton. The Kindertransport movement. The story told in Stars of the Night took place just before World War II, 1939 to 1945, broke out in Europe. During the war, the German Nazi government of Adolf Hitler murdered 6 million Jewish people, which is known as the Holocaust. That number includes the parents of most of the children who were sent away on the Kindertransport. To fully appreciate Nicholas Winton's heroic efforts to save 669 Czechoslovakian children from the Nazis, it is helpful to understand the larger Kindertransport movement. Even before Winton began his work in Prague, humanitarian workers in Germany, Austria, and the Netherlands had begun working with refugee organizations in Britain to secure safe homes for Jewish children. In the course of 9 months, from December 1938 to the outbreak of World War II, Kindertransport volunteers brought nearly 10,000 children, mostly Jewish, to Britain. Although they could not have known it at the time, the children who boarded the Kindertransports were on a journey that would save their lives. Timeline: 1933. Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party come to power in Germany. Their goal is to take absolute control of the government, as well as all aspects of the German society and culture. Germany had been defeated in World War I. Hitler is able to leverage the anger in the country to begin a campaign of racial hatred. the Nazis promote the unfounded notion that a race they call Aryan is superior to all others. Non-Aryans include Jewish people, as well as Roma and Sinti and Black people. The government begins discriminating against Jews, removing them from positions in public offices, the arts, and education. 1935. On September 15, the Nuremberg Laws pass, stripping Jews in Germany of citizenship and other fundamental rights. These laws legalize discrimination against Jews and others deemed undesirable. 1938. On March 12th through 13th, Germany invades and annexes Austria, a German-speaking country, as part of the Nazis' Third Reich, or Empire. Following the invasion, violence against Jews living in Austria increases. On September 29th through 30th, leaders of Britain, France, and Italy signed the Munich Agreement. This allows Hitler to take over the German-speaking parts of Czechoslovakia, the Sudetenland. On November 9th through 10th, Nazis coordinate attacks on Jewish communities throughout Germany, Austria, and areas of the Sudetenland. The attacks become known as Kristallnacht, or the Night of the Broken Glass, because of the shards of glass that litter the streets. Jewish-owned storefronts and buildings are targeted and smashed. In addition, Jewish homes, hospitals, and schools are vandalized, and synagogues are burned to the ground. More than 30,000 Jewish men are arrested and brought to concentration camps. Kristallnacht is a turning point. Jews from Germany and the Sudetenland stream into refugee camps outside of Prague, Czechoslovakia, swelling their numbers to 250,000. Soon afterward, the British Parliament agrees to allow unaccompanied children under the age of 17 from Germany and German-annexed territories to enter the country. To enter, each child has to have a guaranteed foster placement and financial payment for their return home. On December 1st, Operation Kindertransport begins when the first train departs from Berlin, Germany, with 196 children on board from a Jewish orphanage burned during Kristallnacht. The children reach Harwich, England the next day. In late December, Nicholas Winton gets involved. Born in London to parents from German Jewish families, Nicholas, or Nicky, was schooled in Britain and trained in banking. At 29 years old, Winton is working as a London stockbroker and plans to travel to Switzerland to ski. Shortly before the trip, his friend Martin Blake calls and says, "I have a most interesting assignment, and I need your help. Don't bother bringing your skis." Winton meets Blake in Prague. Blake is working with Trevor Chadwick and Doreen Warriner to help adult refugees from Nazi-occupied regions to safety. Winton quickly realizes that no one is focusing on the children. He writes, "I found out that the children of refugees and other groups of people weren't being looked after. The parents desperately wanted at least to get their children to safety. Everybody in Prague said, 'Look, there is no organization in Prague to deal with refugee children. Nobody will let the children go on their own. But if you want to have a go, have a go.'" During his time in Prague, Winton creates his own unofficial British Committee for Refugees from Czechoslovakia Children's Section and appoints himself the head. Winton holds a Czech child in January 1939. 1939. Winton returns to Britain on January 21st and continues his work. With the help of a small group of others, including his mother, Winton begins raising money and identifying foster British homes, forging documents when necessary. The number of applicants grows, reaching 5,000 requests. On March 14th, the first of Winton's transports leaves Prague with 20 children on board. On March 15th, Hitler's German army invades the western half of Czechoslovakia. Czech Jewish parents become desperate to get their children to safety. From April through August, Winton's team brings groups of children from Czechoslovakia to Britain on 7 additional transports. This brings the total number of transports to 8, with a total of 669 children brought to Britain. On September 1st, the 9th Winton train is preparing to leave Prague with 250 children on board when Hitler's army invades Poland. Borders controlled by Germany are closed, and the train cannot leave. This marks the beginning of World War II in Europe. The German army continues to invade other European countries. After the war begins, Winton does not stay in touch with the children he rescued. He serves in the Royal Air Force and returns home to a lifetime of humanitarian projects. 1945. On March 25th, Prague is bombed by the United States, damaging or destroying certain sections of the city. The war finally ends in Europe on May 7th. 1948. On October 31st, Winton marries Greta Jelstrup. In the years that follow, they have 3 children and raise them in Maidenhead, England. Winton never mentions his role in the Kindertransport to Greta or his children. 1988. Greta finds a scrapbook in the attic. Inside is a list of children's names, photos, letters from parents, and other documents. Everything from Nicholas Winton's Czech Kindertransport. Later that same year, Winton is invited to be a guest on a popular British television show, That's Life. Unbeknownst to Winton, the audience is made up of people who had come to Britain as children as part of the Czech Kindertransport. At last, they have a chance to meet him and thank him for saving their lives. Winton's children, as they called themselves, never stopped thanking him for saving their lives. On one occasion, they gave Winton a ring engraved with words from the Talmud, translated into English. Save one life, save the world. Today, more than 6,000 children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Winton's children live all over the world. 1998. Czech President Václav Havel formally recognizes Winton for his humanity and courage. 2003. On March 11th, Winton is knighted by Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom. 2015. On July 1st, Nicholas Winton dies peacefully at the age of 106. Sir Nicholas Winton at Buckingham Palace after being knighted for his services to humanity. Winton's children. Throughout Stars of the Night, 5 children consistently wear orange, red, dark blue, light blue, or green. These children represent sisters Eva and Vera Diamantova, orange and red respectively. Brothers Joseph and Ernest Schlesinger, dark blue and light blue respectively, and Renata Polgar, green. While they were not all in the same place at the same time in real life, they are all real people Nicholas Winton saved and helped to show the collective experiences of those rescued. On July 20th, 1939, Vera Diamantova, aged 10, and Eva Diamantova, aged 15, hugged their parents goodbye for the last time and boarded the Czech Kindertransport. It took them from Prague through Germany and the Netherlands to the town of Hook of Holland. They then traveled by boat across the English Channel to Britain, eventually reaching Liverpool Street Station in London. Before Vera left, her father gave her a diary to capture her thoughts and experiences. That diary and others became the material for Vera's memoir, Pearls of Childhood. In it, Vera wrote the words her mother shared with her before they embarked on their journey. "There will be times when you'll feel lonely and homesick. Let the stars of the night and the sun of the day be the messenger of our thoughts and love." Those words helped guide Vera and Eva, and also guided the writing of this story. Although their parents did not survive the war, the sisters never forgot their mother's words of hope and connection. As an adult, Vera made Britain her home and later became a writer and interpreter under her married name, Vera Gissing, while her sister, Ava Heyman, moved to New Zealand and became a nurse. Ava died in 2013, and Vera died in 2022. Joseph Schlesinger was 11 years old, and his younger brother, Ernest, was 9 when they left their home in Bratislava, Czechoslovakia, and boarded a Winton Kindertransport. Joseph remembers the night their ship crossed the English Channel. The children softly sang the Czech national anthem. Kde domov můj? This translates into English as, where is my home? Joseph's experience in his British home was a struggle, and like most children, Joseph and Ernest learned their parents did not survive the Holocaust. 50 years later, when Joseph met Nicholas Winton, Joseph felt he had found a father figure he needed all along. As adults, the brothers moved to Canada. Joseph became a well-known journalist. Ernest spent his career in social work. Joseph died in February 2019, and Ernest died in March 2021. Renata Polgar remembered a happy childhood in her home of Brno, the second largest city in Czechoslovakia. Her parents grew worried after the events of Kristallnacht and sought a way for their only child to escape to safety. Her mother connected with a family in Britain who offered to care for her daughter. At first, Renata was excited. She would be part of the Daniels family, with a little brother, a kitten, and a garden to make her feel at home. When the day came to travel to Prague and climb aboard a Winton Kindertransport, Renata cried. She was only 8 years old, facing a journey by herself to an unknown country to meet a family she did not know. Fortunately for Renata, her 7 years living with the Daniels family were full of fond memories. And out of the 669 children saved by Nicholas Winton, Renata was one of 5 children whose parents both survived the Holocaust. 20 had one parent survive. After the war, Renata married, changed her last name to Laxova, and eventually immigrated to the United States, becoming a well-known pediatric genetic scientist. She would always remember Nicholas Winton's life philosophy. If it's not impossible, then there must be a way to do it. She died in November 2020. Vera Gissing, Joseph Schlesinger. Stars in Another Night, Yad Vashem's Children's Memorial. Although 10,000 children were saved by the Kindertransport movement, many more Jewish children did not have the opportunity to board a train to safety. Instead, they and their parents were ordered to board trains to concentration camps. Of the 6 million Jews murdered during the Holocaust, 1.5 million were children. The Children's Memorial, part of the World Holocaust Remembrance Center, Yad Vashem, in Jerusalem, Israel, honors these youngest victims. Flickering candle flames reflected in mirrors covering the memorial's interior give the impression of an infinite blanket of stars across the night sky. Stars of the Night is a tribute to these children too. Nicholas Winton's story lives on. Nicholas Winton's Kindertransport story is not only a story of history, but also one that can inspire us to action today. In many parts of the world, children are refugees caught in dangerous situations, or immigrants struggling to make a home in a new country. May Nicholas Winton's courage and forethought inspire all of us to make a difference in children's lives. To save one life can help save the world. Author's note. Several years ago, my older brother Bill sent me a video clip in an email. "This might interest you," he wrote. I opened the attachment. Scenes from the now famous BBC video of Nicholas Winton and his heroic efforts to save 669 Czechoslovakian children from Nazi persecution flashed in front of me. Until that moment, I had not heard of Nicholas Winton, nor did I know much about the Kindertransport movement. Watching bewildered children say goodbye to crying parents at a train station, I couldn't help it. Tears welled up. I played the video again and again and again. I began to read everything I could about Nicholas Winton, the Kindertransport movement, and the children on those trains. One morning, I woke up early and sat at my writing desk. Stars of the Night poured out, as if I had stepped into that time and had become a Kinder myself. Why was I so drawn to this story? I am from a Jewish family. We have unspoken stories about family members I have never met who died in the Holocaust. When I was younger, I read stories of the Holocaust and wondered, what would have happened to me if I had been born in Europe during World War II? Which train would I have been sent on? A train to England and safety? Or a train to a dark and unknown end? After writing Stars of the Night, I hug my own children and grandchildren a little tighter and look for new ways to help give children, wherever they are, a ticket to life. Karen Stelson. Illustrator's note. I grew up in British Columbia, Canada in the 1970s and 1980s, an artistic child of Jewish immigrants. Although I went to a public school, my happy place was spending summers at a progressive Jewish sleepaway camp, where we were schooled in the history of anti-Semitism and played capture the flag. I honed my creative skills at camp, painting peaceful murals of community and togetherness. Now, as an adult, I love illustrating and sometimes writing children's books with social justice themes, and have been doing so for more than 20 years. When I heard about Nicholas Winton, I jumped at the chance to illustrate his story. In this case, my research meant revisiting that painful time during World War II, when my Jewish ancestors in Eastern Europe were facing imminent persecution. Learning that some families were given the chance to save their children felt somewhat hopeful, and I appreciated the incredibly organized and anonymous nature of Winton's benevolent work. I began illustrating this story during the COVID-19 pandemic, when children all around me, including my own, were suffering from being forced to stay at home, separated from the vital socialization that happens at school with their peers. To add more weight to the situation, as I was working on the final art, Russia had invaded Ukraine and war was raging overseas, forcing millions to flee their homes. The clear parallels around me served to emphasize the importance of getting this hopeful true story out into the world. Selena Alco.